subway that's reading the New York Daily News, and then the dude across from that dude is like reading it because they can't like keep their eyes away from it. Like he wants to just pull you in and engage you, and that's what they're doing with their covers. Yeah. You know, but they're using every trick in the book to pull you into these stories, and that poor fellow who's just sleeping, sucked down full. Ugh. So that's how I'm feeling. And I'll leave you at that one. It seemed like he was doing well for a while. Sent out more tweets. I think there's a lot of reasons to feel optimistic about what's going on the front page. And you see it, and I saw it in the voices from these designers that newspapers large and small. They take pride in their work, they're taking risks, they're pushing themselves, and in pushing themselves, they're sort of pushing our missions forward. So I would just say, as you go home this weekend, you know, sort of treasure your platform while you have it and make the most of every shift that you have. That's all I have for this weekend, sort of discussion.
Yeah.
Well, JB just showed a bunch of, a wide variety of front pages, but every single one of these front pages that he showed can answer the question, what are we doing with our cover? What is our purpose? They can boil it down to a few words, such as dominate the newsstand. You know, I think the contrast in some of the pages that don't work is that that question hasn't been asked and answered. What do we want to do with this front page, and are we doing it? And you go element by element across that page, and you go, well, this isn't going to help me dominate the newsstand, or you know, this isn't going to further our commitment to this issue on death. And then they take it off. And you know, regardless of what level of influence each of us has in a newsroom, we can ask that question. What are we trying to do with this cover? You know, a larger question, who are we as an organization, and does this element do it? Does this element do it? Does turning this sideways do it? Does this interaction do it? And if the answer is no, that's when you want to go back and redo and redo.
And I think really where this started from in the first place, in it was a long exchange on Facebook, it was really interesting, is publications. I think a lot of times, at least in my opinion, that a lot of publications probably don't know what their 1A is, what it should be. They're working by outdated rules of when they were getting a lot of single copy circulation or all these things, and I think that that's maybe what the problem lies. The publications that know who they are use that kind of mission statement or idea to, you know, I don't think New York Daily News knows what it is, they know what they want to do. New York Times knows what it wants to do. A lot of these publications know what they want to do. I think that just by the nature of what's happened to our industry, we tend to not, in a lot of the places, not know what we want to be. And I think that that's when the disturbing trend happens of the designer sees content and says, what can I do with that content versus here's the content and how's that going to influence design. There's a big difference there, and I think that's how you see photo illustrations gone awry or things that are questionable and seem odd. That's where you start with that. I think it's a lot of it because publications are still struggling for their identity or struggling for what their 1A should accomplish.
You actually used a word that I think is very relevant to this discussion we just had when you said, what can I do with that content? You know, I think that's a question that we should ask. Here's content, what can I do with it? A lot of the things that I showed were changing one word in that phrase. What can I do to that content? And that's a big difference. When you're working with something versus doing something to something else, your mindset's completely different. I'm taking this content about death and I'm working with it across every inch of this cover, as opposed to, here's an abstract story, I'm going to put this box behind it and turn it sideways. That's just doing something to it. It's not working with it. I think that's a big difference.
So we're out of time, unfortunately, but we do have time for questions if you want to come up and talk. And I appreciate everyone, and I really appreciate JB and Josh's support.